Greetings, gladiators of the grid, and welcome to our very first ever virtual UTA for the 960th Cyberspace Wing. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to speak to all of you airmen today, and I look forward to hearing how you all think our virtual UTA goes. So welcome and look forward to your comments on how productive as a wing we were able to be during our virtual UTA. I wanted to start off our commander's call today with a little bit of good news and congratulations. I would like to congratulate our quarterly award winners for the first quarter, right, Chief? The first quarter of the year?
I believe it's second quarter.
Second quarter. So it's which quarter?
So we're talking January, February, March.
That's right. First quarter of the year, but second fiscal quarter. So, drum roll. Our quarterly award winners are, for the Airmen category, Senior Airman Jim Ontis from the 23rd Combat Comm Squadron. In the NCO category, Staff Sergeant Christina Davis from the 55th Combat Comm Squadron. And in the Senior NCO category, Master Sergeant Jasmine Brown from the 35th Combat Comm Squadron. And in the CGO category, First Lieutenant Dakovan Lewis from the 23rd Combat Comm Squadron. So congratulations to all those combat commers out there. Great job done. Last but certainly not least, in our civilian category, Daniel Wilburn from the 52nd Network Warfare Squadron. So congratulations to all of our quarterly award winners for a job well done. Have a couple of things I want to cover today. As far as topics go, there's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in our country, and actually a lot going on in the wing. And so have a couple of what I think are really important topics to cover with you guys today. The first thing I really wanted to talk about was where we're at with COVID-19. I did a commander's call video with you guys, I think it was in March, right when all this stuff was kind of kicking off. And you know, we were all about washing our hands and you know, coughing into our sleeves and, you know, trying to take those precautionary measures, and not really sure where all this was going to take us. And so here we are a couple months later, which it feels like light years ago that we were just talking and learning about how important it is to wash our hands and cough into our sleeve. And here we are, you know, wearing masks and teleworking, and how things have changed in a matter of a couple of months. I just want to say, give you guys kudos for all your hard work on that. I think at this point we've had one, and I'm hearing possibly a second positive case within the 960th Cyberspace Wing. So considering we're a wing of over 1,200 airmen, I think y'all should congratulate yourselves in terms of being safe and healthy in what you're doing out there. And I would say keep up the good work. Keep doing all those things that have prevented you from catching coronavirus, and keep doing those things like washing your hands, wearing the face coverings, being very cognizant about what you're doing when you're out and about, trying to stay home as much as possible. Do all those things that are keeping you and your family safe and healthy, because we need you. And so, as I'm sure you've heard in the media, and hopefully as you've seen in all the COVID information that I've been sending out on a weekly basis, some of those restrictions are starting to lift. I would caution you all, as I'm sure many of y'all have seen in the news and in the media, some folks I think are going, yay, you know, the lockdown's lifted, and then they go to the Lake of the Ozarks and there's like a bazillion people you know, up next to each other in a pool. And then what happened in that certain scenario, I saw a news article after that at least one of those individuals tested positive for COVID-19. And so not a good thing in terms of practicing safe practices to do that kind of stuff. And so don't let your guard down. Obviously there's still no vaccine available for the COVID-19, so keep up your guard. Make sure you're wearing those face masks when you're not able to practice proper social distancing. You're important to us and you're important to our mission, and so we want to make sure all of us, including you, are safe and healthy and can continue to contribute towards the mission. In terms of all that, of course, I would say be flexible and be prepared to be flexible in how we continue to operate and how things are going to work moving forward. Obviously, it's a fluid situation. One of the folks that I work with in my civilian job, he got a little koozie made for folks that said it's a fluid situation, kind of in joking, but it's really true. Every day you wake up and the situation is evolving. So I would say from an advice perspective, stay flexible, keep those lines of communication open with your supervisory chain. We're obviously working with all of the leaders across the wing to understand what return to work looks like for everybody, what return to work looks like in terms of UTAs moving forward. We're obviously doing a virtual UTA this particular month, but we'll circle back around after this UTA and look at the feedback from the UTA, look at the current HPCon conditions for all of our areas and our GSUs, and give our best advisement moving forward on what the plans will be for UTAs moving forward. Speaking of UTAs, we did publish a revised UTA schedule, and that information's been sent out. So if you haven't seen it, please get with your supervisor or your CSS. Those folks, I'm sure, can get you the schedule so you understand what the UTA schedule looks like for the remainder of the fiscal year. We've also published the UTA schedule for the next fiscal year, for fiscal year 21. And so for your planning purposes, also make sure if you don't already have that you get that from your unit, because everybody should have that. I did want to give you guys a little bit of an update on where we're at with the wing and leadership priorities and wing priorities and strategic planning. We had a summit, the leadership summit, in April. Of course, we did that virtually, which was not how we originally planned it, but I feel like it was very successful. Kudos to the folks that helped in the overall planning of that. So all of the commanders and superintendents met virtually over a 2.5 day period in April. And the focus of the Leadership Summit this go-round was really on strategic planning and re-looking at some of that work that we did in 2019 around strategic planning. So our Mr. Bud Binky, he led the effort in terms of doing a strategic planning event. We went through and revalidated our wing vision and mission, and so we validated that kind of the work we'd done before was still good work in terms of what we feel like is the wing mission and vision for the 960th. And we re-looked at what the wing priorities are and from the past work that we've done and whether or not that still fit in the direction that we're trying to go. And so we came up with some new slightly massaged and revised wing priorities, and so hopefully you've seen communication on this already. If not, hang tight, because I've got all this information for you right now. So to recap what our wing mission statement is, to provide combat-ready citizen airmen to operate, secure, and defend in cyberspace. The wing vision statement, cyber dominance, anytime, any place, any domain. And then our 3 wing priorities moving forward as part of our strategic plan are empowering airmen and families, optimizing readiness, and executing the mission. And so what we've done with those 3 wing priorities is we've established champions for each of those priorities. And so for the Empower Airmen and Families champion, Major Fuller from the 689th has volunteered to lead that wing priority. For optimizing readiness, Lieutenant Colonel Ruiz from the 53rd NOS has volunteered to lead that priority. And for executing the mission, our champion for that is our very own Chief Howard. And so appreciate those 3 folks volunteering. They volunteered, they weren't voluntold, to lead these wing priorities. And so I believe they are trying to solicit input across the wing on those priorities for people to be a part of those teams to work on establishing some goals and objectives for each of those priorities. And so if anybody hasn't asked you yet or solicited you as a volunteer, and one of those priorities resonates with something that you're passionate about or something where you feel you can add value, I would highly encourage you to reach out to one of those people and say, hey, Chief Howard, I'm a volunteer. I've got all this great experience, and I feel like I can add value into around that executing the mission priority. And so we really need everyone across the wing to be a part of this strategic effort. And so don't think just because I'm an Airman First Class or a Second Lieutenant that I can't bring value. We need to hear from all voices, all experience levels, and help us really coalesce around these priorities and establish some really good goals and objectives so that then we can work towards achieving those goals and direction and improving as a wing. So that's kind of where we're at with strategic planning and priorities, and a little recap of what we focused on during our leadership summit. I would anticipate still trying to have those leadership summit planning events at least twice a year for the foreseeable future. So hopefully we can have the next one in person in the November timeframe. Of course, given the current situation with the civil unrest right now that's going on in the country and all the discussions about racial equality, I would be remiss if I didn't take some time to talk to you guys about that very important subject and kind of give you guys my 2 cents and my take on what's going on with all of that. I'll start off by saying that if you haven't had a chance to do this, General Goldfein and Chief Wright hosted a Facebook town hall last night, and so if you didn't get a chance to see that live on Facebook Live last night, about 15 minutes long, highly suggest you get on Facebook and watch that video. I think it was a real good conversation on what their views are and where we're at as an Air Force in terms of racial equality. I think it's a really difficult topic sometimes. It leaves people to be kind of uncomfortable, but I think as you can see across the country and what's going on, that there's a lot of passion about that and a lot of people who feel like their voices have not been heard. And I think it's really an important time for all of us to take a step back and think about what's causing all this demonstration and consternation and concern. And really the number one and most important thing is to listen to those folks that don't feel heard. In any scenario, whether it's this specific scenario or a conversation involved between two spouses or mother-daughter, father-son, listening is really the most important thing. Whether you have walked a mile in that person's shoes, you understand where they're coming from, you don't understand where they're coming from, the most important thing is to stop and listen. Listen to that person's perspective. Try to understand where that person's coming from. I am obviously a person that probably hasn't experienced a whole lot of racial inequality. I'm a white person, right? And so I think it's really important for me to try to understand other people's perspective that I haven't had. When I think back to what's important to me, diversity in the workplace is something that I really believe in and really hold important. If you've ever had a conversation with me around that topic, you will understand and you will not be surprised to hear that. I think I place a lot of importance on that in terms of what we as an organization look like and the diversity that we bring to the table. And I think that's partly because of obviously my upbringing, right? I would say I didn't come from a very diverse scenario, and so I feel like looking back on it, I had very monochromatic vision when it came to what diversity looks like and how that can be important in trying to improve your workplace and creating a great work environment. And as I've progressed through my life and through my career, I've had an opportunity to be around a more diverse population. And it's really opened my eyes about how diversity of thought and diversity of background can bring such a positive influence on your workforce and on the organization that you have. And so that's really shaped my thinking over the years on how diversity can really make you as an individual better, but make your organization better. And so as a female, it doesn't go unnoticed to me when I go into rooms with other leaders, other wing commanders, and there's not very many people that look like me in that room of other leaders. And so to be frank, that concerns me in terms of being an Air Force leader. And so My hope and what I try to strive for is when I leave the Air Force someday, hopefully not soon, that when other leaders are sitting in a room, that they don't all look alike, and that I've been a part of trying to build that diversity of leaders across this Air Force, because I think it's so important to get that diversity of experience and diversity of thought and diversity of background to make us better. So I'll get off my soapbox about that right now. It's really important to me that we think about that we have those difficult conversations. And so take this opportunity while this is in the forefront of everybody's mind to have those conversations, whether it's at home with your family, on a Zoom happy hour with some of your friends, or over the course of the virtual UTA, set up a group of people and talk about this. I think the more anyone can talk about their experience, positive or negative, as far as the situation is concerned, the better we're all going to be as human beings moving forward, because we need to all understand everybody's perspective, understand where everybody's coming from, and most importantly, listen. If people felt heard, I would submit to you a lot of the demonstrating that's going on would not be happening, because part of that, a lot of it, is because people don't feel heard. So let's all commit to listening to each other and understanding everybody's perspective. All right, so now I'm going to go turn it over to Chief Howard, and he's got a couple of things that he would like to talk to you about today. So Chief Howard, you're up.
Thank you, Colonel Jones. Appreciate the opportunity. Gladiators, welcome to the UTA. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your weekends, out of your time away from your families to participate in the 960th first ever virtual UTA. This is paramount, right? It's definitely showing the flexibility and capability of our Cyber Wing to be able to adapt and to be able to adjust based on the world's events. And Colonel Jones, thanks for the words of encouragement and reminding us that openness is very key to being able to keep a diverse team together. If we're able to set aside our biases, put away that baggage on the side, I think that we'll see a capability increase within our force, right? If we're able to look at each one of each other's members, to take the time and listen to what they have to say, grasp those experiences, and then to be able to harness that knowledge and capability, I think we're only going to be able to grow. Kind of leads us into the first thing I want to hit on, right? As the world's been throwing a lot of things at us between all the COVID issues, the fact that we haven't been able to see each other face to face over the last couple of months. We've been able to adapt and adjust, but also now we have another thing at our door with the civil unrest, right? It's kind of one of the things that's been highlighting the fact that we have to be very open and see what our fellow Americans have to say, and also embrace the fact of where we sit today in leadership and as members of the military, and setting the example for everybody, right? Which means that we still have constitutional rights. Those constitutional rights do allow you as an American to be able to protest. But one of the things that we have to worry about with being a reservist is how do we actually present ourselves. So as much of a constitutional right you have, that you do and you should exercise as you see fit, we do have to keep in mind that we cannot do that in any part of our uniform. That means not just the top, not just the bottom, nothing at all, right? We can't affiliate ourselves as a military member, but as an American citizen, by all means. The other piece we have to be concerned with is putting ourselves in danger, or getting ourselves put into a situation where violence may occur. Those are also against AFI and the UCMJ. So please, if you're going to exercise your right, which I highly recommend, please be careful not to represent yourself inappropriately or set yourself up for failure. Next thing, right? And we talked about COVID-19, a lot of changes going on. As we've heard in a number of meetings and seen a couple of documentations going through, the fitness standard has changed a little bit. We are currently waiving waist measurement for the time being, as we were worried about that being a potential spread, keeping that 6-foot distance. Also, we have to look at, we're changing the dates. Right now, we're projected not to start testing again until 1 October. I will highlight to each individual that just because we are not testing, do not lose that lifestyle, right? I know it's really hard, especially as we change things up within the virtual UTA setup. being at home, we maybe get a little bit more complacent. Please take the time, schedule in your fitness, and make sure that you're keeping up with that standard. Also, things that have been changing within the COVID is we were projected to have a UEI coming in September. That has been moved. That's been moved all the way till June of 2021. But we want to keep the schedule we had going, right? We need to keep moving forward. We need to keep that cycle of continuing processes and continuing to evaluate ourselves and improving our capability through our inspection program. So please keep up on that. We will see that. Also, additionally, the 10th Air Force CDCA, we're pressing to get that rescheduled, as well as any of the SABs that are coming up. So keep up with the schedule. Be prepared to flex out as necessary to meet the needs of those reschedules. All right, some interesting news coming up as well. Okay, so we're going to have a podcast coming up. Colonel Arridge and other individuals, to include myself on occasion, will be producing a podcast. We're going to hit some key pieces of information. We're going to get that out to you. You'll see that in the social media. You'll be able to get a hold of that through the Air Force Connect. And if you have any ideas or any concerns or things that you'd like us to talk about, please route that up through your leadership or route it to us directly through the Air Force Connect app, and then we will be able to hit those subjects. So you'll be looking for that really soon. That's going to be the Sword and Shield. We put out a vote not too long ago, so that's what we came up with. And I look forward to being part of that process, and I look forward to getting your guys' comments. So please listen to them, check them out, give us some feedback. We want to learn from this. We want to make a product that you guys are happy with and that is useful for you. One more change. Okay, happy or not. It's a new application coming out. You'll see via email as well as social media sources. It's similar to some of the kiosks you may have seen in other locations. What it is it's a 3-question max survey, completely anonymous, right? There's no demographics collected at all. You'll get a QR code, much like this one right here. And we will be getting that to you via email and the social media sources. You'll be able to click that. There'll also be links. You'll get a happy face symbol coming up. You get to pick whether I'm happy or not. That will drive additional questions and responses. Right now, the current one will be up for a couple of days, and we'll change that. The QR code will never change, nor will the link, but the questions will based on time. Let's see. All right. That's all I have. Colonel Jones, back to you.
All right, thanks, Chief Howard. I'm going to wrap this up now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't speak to you about the fact that this probably is going to be my last Wing Commander's call. If you haven't heard, I've been selected for an assignment, and so I'm going to be moving on here in the next couple of months, and got a lot of leadership changes coming in the next couple of months. As y'all know, congratulations to Colonel Arridge. He's been announced as our next Wing Commander, and so he's going to be fantastic and make me probably look really stupid, because he's going to be so much more awesome than I was as your Wing Commander. So we'll be getting a new Vice Commander. Both group commanders will be changing over this summer, so a lot of change. And so my ask of all of you is to support your new leaders. Keep doing what you're doing. Y'all know how to run this show and run this business, and so help them as they onboard, and help them understand the mission ahead of them and the challenges that you face, and help them understand where it is that they can help you moving forward to make our organization better. On a personal note, I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the support you've given me over the last couple of years. This really has been the highlight of my career. To serve not only as your Wing Commander, but the first ever Wing Commander of the 960th Cyberspace Wing. It's just absolutely been a privilege. I tell folks the highlight of my tour, and if you've heard me say this when I come to visit you, one of my favorite things to do is to come see you guys and just spend time with y'all and find out what your story is, and you know, what you do when you're not at your unit, and what keeps you coming back to the unit. It is so amazing to hear such different stories and how diverse all of our airmen are across this wing. You guys are amazing, and you're going to take this wing to amazing new heights after I leave. So thank you for all the support that you've given me, and I wish you guys all the best in your future endeavors as a wing. So y'all enjoy yourselves, stay safe and stay healthy, and you have a great Air Force Day. Thanks.